Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is Joey Galvez, one half of your host of Explain Yourself, and I want to let you guys know about a really cool book from our friend of the show, Eli Shockey. This one is called The Greylock, and it's a story where magic is a commodity. Potions are sold at corner stores. Orcs and dwarves earn a living in cubicles, not on the battlefields. But there are those who resist the house's magic's laws. Branded a criminal and forced to live as a want for hire, there is a spell slinger they call the Greylock. Check this one out. You guys can pre-order issue 3 right now with code JAN241939, and make sure you guys are heading over to your favorite LCS and letting them know that you want Greylock number 3, and maybe pick up the first 2 issues. You could do that at the Scout web store. So make sure you guys are grabbing the Greylock number 3, JAN241939 at previewsworld.com.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All Too Real 2. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame and Carta.
Today we are talking about Dilbert, the TV show, based on, everybody's favorite racist cartoonist's comic strip.
Into a cartoon form.
Yes, so this is based on the popular comic strip called Dilbert that was created by Scott Adams. The show was created by Scott Adams, with help from Larry Charles, who was the former writer and I think one of the creative people behind Seinfeld. The first episode was broadcast, which we're covering, which is called The Name. It broadcast on the UPN network, United Paramount Network. On January 25th, 1999. It was actually the highest rated comedy series premiere at that point in the network's history, but the network hadn't been around really that long at that point, so...
Yeah, that's not really saying much.
No, it lasted 2 seasons, was canceled for reasons due to the fact that it didn't have really a large audience. UPN wasn't that great of a network at the time. I mean, it wasn't really well known. I mean, eventually it merged with the WB and became CW. So it, has a weird history. Scott Adams himself, at one point just said that it was canceled because of the intro show being Shasta McNasty, which he called the worst television series in the history of television. And later on, he blamed the cancellation on the fact that the network wanted to focus more on African American shows. In early signs of his future.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's a progression.
Yeah. Among other little weird things that I've come across in my research about Scott Adams and Dilbert is that, he has a sidekick named Dogbert, who is his dog.
Yeah.
Do you know what the original name of Dogbert was before he started creating the show? I mean, the strip?
No.
Dildog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. One extra letter on top. It's basically dildo with a G on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a good thing he changed that.
Yeah.
The show starred Daniel Stern from, Home Alone and the narrator from Wonder Years and from City Slickers as Dilbert.
And also, don't forget Celtic Pride.
Oh, yes, the greatest movie ever made.
Right. Yes, it is a good movie. And Damon Wayans, Dan Aykroyd. Yeah.
Good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Then Chris Elliott, who we've covered in a previous episode, his pilot thing
That's a good one. I love that.
Action Family. As Dogbert. Comedian Larry Miller as Pointy-Haired Boss.
Larry, I love him.
You have Kathy Griffin going uncredited as Alice, because at the time she was on Suddenly Susan on a different network, and they wouldn't allow her to use her name on another show, but she still did the voice. Yeah. And among other people, including my Facebook friend Gary Kroger as additional voices. You got Maurice LaMarche, Tress McNeely, Jason Alexander. This is not all in this episode, though. Jackie Hoffman as Dilbert's mom. I guess they kept it's weird. There's Rat Bert, but there's Dill Mom. And there's Dog Bert. It's just weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got Jim Wise as Loud Harold. Anyways, so show, like I said, it lasted a little bit. So anyways, this pilot episode.
Yeah.
What happens in this? I'll let you start.
He's basically kind of like like a nerd, I guess you'd call it. Like he's got his shower like connected to his like voice activation, like how much, the temperature, he wants the water, and it's all because, there's no reason to use his hands if he doesn't really need to. So, Dogbert keeps tricking him into saying different numbers so it can make like the water super cold or super hot. Just kind of, Dogbert kind of is already kind of being seen as like a chaos agent. Basically, you'll see that kind of more throughout the episode. And Dilbert's kind of just a straight-laced dude. Like, he doesn't really, like his math skills are really good, but he's not really good with words. And that kind of goes into, the name of the episode, which is called The Name. And just because he works at a place where I guess they come up with like different products or something like that. And there's like this sort of like myth of like this person called like the Chicken Man, because he was like tasked with coming up with the name of a product, and it was too much stress for him, so he turned into a chicken man, which I don't really understand
I totally did not understand that at all. So.
I don't even know what that's even supposed to mean or imply. I don't know. I guess I just thought it would be like some random funny thing to do. There's also stuff like that.
Maybe it's something in the strip.
Yeah, maybe
in the comic strip, which I will fully admit I've never read. So.
Right. No, I've only just knew that it was in like different papers.
If I've ever read it, it was not on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And, he gets tasked with coming up with the name of this product because, excuse me, one of the products they use had anthrax in it or something like that. And he told them it wasn't a plant, it was like a dangerous chemical. So then they had to like convert the product into different things so that they wouldn't lose money, I guess, from it. I don't know. And
it's kind of
another weird thing. Because I think they're going for like a Simpsons thing here or there with like the absurd scenarios here.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and this was like prior to The Office, for the Office or Office Space. It was prior to both of those.
Yeah.
So I mean, just shy of like when Office Space came out, I think, but like a year or two. And it is that kind of mundane office type of humor, which I guess if you work in an office might be funny.
I guess. if you're like your soul is just crushed and I don't know, just kind of like the absurd things, like 'cause at one point like this guy is getting fired and the boss said something like, "No, I'm demanding that you take your ridiculously high severance package and go get a higher paying job," or something like that. And that's supposed to be like his punishment. And
yeah,
it's like trying to throw in these little things I guess they thought would be funny, but they never land ever, and it was just kind of boring and stupid, and I really hate talking about it, but it was just really dumb. And
yeah, I mean, and it's really interesting too, because like things I've learned about Scott Adams too is the fact that people viewed this whole thing as like an anti-capitalist sort of comic strip and TV show and stuff like that, but he's very pro-capitalism. So in real life,
just more like an anti-this culture, it's not so much anti-capitalist. It's just
and it's like even like he's not even anti, like he's written several philosophy books and other things about like business and just philosophy in general that he probably should never have written. But and he thinks that that's his way that he's going to be remembered after he dies.
Oh yeah, I'm sure of it. And I didn't even know anything about that until he just told me. And I usually know about.
I don't know if you've ever heard of like the Peter Principle. It's like about the idea of like somebody failing to management in a company,
like Dilbert or something
failing
like that.
Upwards sort of thing. I mean, I can't remember the whole details of that, but he wrote a book called the Dilbert Principle, where it was something about how people are like promoted to keep them from messing up things, meaning that they're so stupid that they get promoted. I mean, which I mean makes sense. I've been in places like
I agree with that actually. Yeah,
it's not like a way off, but he's convinced that, like, I watched an interview with him the other day, and he said something about like where he's convinced that his philosophy on life and all these things that, anytime anybody writes about philosophy, they're going to need to reference him because his work is so important.
Yeah, that's like too big of an ego right there.
Honestly, his biggest mistake is ever opening up his mouth outside of his strip. But anyways, he should have just wrote his comic and never talked. He also couldn't talk for 3 years, but that's another story.
Oh wow,
he had a disease where he couldn't talk for 3 years.
Oh my god,
surgery done. Yeah, and they say that might have made him, a little bit messed up with with the surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like how we were talking off air too about certain people being bitter about stuff. And, what he said too about the UPN, I think was kind of true though, wasn't it? Because weren't they kind of focusing more on like black shows? Like
they were to a point, but they were getting better ratings.
Well, that's what I'm saying though. So it wasn't that he was wrong, but then he took it and went with it. And
yeah, it's like
bitter about it,
But the thing is if showing pictures of kittens on TV for all of prime time would have made them lots of money, they would have played that. It didn't matter what it is. People in capitalist society, they don't care about anything about what the actual product is. They just want to make the money. So, and that's.
I mean, that used to be like there wasn't like any ideological agenda. Now, unfortunately, there is sometimes now with that going hand in hand with the making money. Because I know it's kind of a weird tangent because I'm just trying to avoid talking about this, but like there's like an interview with Frank Zappa back in like the 80s, I think, where he was talking about how both simultaneously people like idealize the 60s as like this great era, which wasn't really that great really to begin with, but like when it came to like music and stuff or just culture in general, but also that there was some truth to the idea that like interesting music could come into existence like and be sold and marketed to like people. And the reason why is because the a lot of the guys who owned and worked for these record companies, they weren't really ideologically inclined. They just like we'll throw some money at this project and see if it makes some money and sell some records, and we'll just
they cared more about the process and the art than they did about the back end.
Yeah. And then he said that what happened over time was that fans of music and people who saw themselves as like people who like knew what people liked, then they became the CEOs of the company. So not only were they making business decisions, they were also making creative decisions at the same exact time. And so then that made it so it was much harder for like something that was experimental or whatever to really be marketed, because they're like, no, I don't like this, and it's not going to fly or whatever. Whereas like the old guys were just like, we'll throw some money into this and see if it works out or not. Like they don't care, So like in actuality, that was actually a more liberating era when it came to music, just because the guys didn't care, like about it was
you can't create something in a vacuum, really. I mean, it's just hard to do, But anyways, the so this episode.
This episode.
So they're trying to come up with a product name. He's even talking it over with his mom as they play Scrabble. Him and the dog and the mom play Scrabble.
Dogbert, yep.
Mm-hmm. And Dogbert's cheating by making his own Scrabble tiles.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what?
Yeah, and the mom comes up with a name. What was her name that she came up with? I'm trying to remember. I just watched this and
I don't remember now.
There's something Buster 2000.
Oh yeah, it was like Buster 6000 or
something. Yeah, like Gutbuster 2000 or something. I don't know what it was or whatever it was. But anyways, so she throws out that name, and they're not gonna use that name. And then their concept is that they have to present to the Pointy-Haired Boss's boss the two options, because you always present him with two options, a bad one and a good one, and then he'll choose the good one, the one you want him to choose. And so they end up coming up with an idea for a name, because after they started throwing out all these different names, and half of them or most of them are taken by other companies. And but by the way, that if another company is using a product that's nothing like the product you're doing and can't be confused for that product, you can actually name it the same thing, unless it's like a completely like trademarked product. Like I couldn't come out with a line of Star Wars pancakes or something, but it's like, so it's just different. But like you could have like a helicopter named Dilbert and a line of toothbrushes named Dilbert, because they don't compete with each other. So
yeah,
but
exactly.
Anyways, the so they're kind of off on that when they're coming up with things, but they come up with all these different names, and like a lot of them are based on like diseases and conditions and stuff. And which was weird.
I didn't get that part either.
I don't know. I guess they were trying to be funny.
Yeah, I guess. Fine.
And the name that they choose is Acorn. They thought that would be a great name. And it turned out that there's like a like dry cleaners named Acorn, which would not interfere. But anyways, we're gonna,
exactly.
They go to try to buy the name from this mom and pop Acorn. I mean, not Acorn dry cleaner place. And so then Dogbert, they refuse. These people are acting all French and snooty, and they refuse to sell the name because they said it's their favorite son's nickname. And
to be French for some reason.
Yeah. And Dogbert decides that he's just gonna do this thing thing where a chain reaction that burns down the whole strip mall.
Yeah.
Goes to like a vibrating chair place, and then that sets something off in this other place, and then there's like fireworks, and there's like it just like burns down the whole place, so.
And which I thought was interesting because I'm no business owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was unaware that just because the physical location of your business burns or gets demolished or whatever, that automatically means that you don't have the company still like in your name. Like I didn't know that it just goes hand in hand. We're like, oh, so if you own a McDonald's and your McDonald's burns down, that means automatically you don't own, like it's just like you get your business license just gets taken away from you. Like what?
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, but apparently Dogbert does. So I guess he knows in and out.
Because there's never been a place that caught on fire and then they just rebuilt.
And then they just take your business license and the name away from you just because.
Yeah.
Like, oh well,
nobody has fire insurance or anything. But
right. That's for you, so now you no longer own the name Acorn because the building burned down, I guess. Okay, that's weird. So what if CNN burned down, like the headquarters of CNN? Now CNN is just like fair game. Anyone can just come up with it and now own it. Like,
don't give anybody any ideas here.
Or Fox News, yeah, exactly.
Either side, I don't want to see either one burned down.
What I'm saying, like, it's just a weird concept that they think, whatever.
Yeah.
Dogbert, idiot. Yeah, he burns. Yeah, so now he's an arsonist, and
yeah. So basically, so then they get to use the name Acorn, and they set up a whole thing, and then they have a meeting with Pointy-Haired Boss's boss. That is the character's name. In the credits, the character's name is Pointy-Haired Boss's boss. So
that's great.
Yeah. Anyways, they have this meeting, and then he tells a story about how when he was little, he lost his shorts in a river, and he got the nickname Acorn, probably because his little wee looked like an acorn or something.
Yeah, because he said he was in there for a long time because he didn't want to show himself.
And then it was revealed that his parents are the ones that owned the dry cleaners. His definitely not French parents, as he said.
Yeah, they just
So then they have to present different names, and they end up choosing. They can't present Acorn, and so they present like some weird like disease or something or ailment or whatever.
No, salmonella, I think.
Oh, the salmonella, and then they present the name that Dilmom gave, and that's the one he went with, and then we end the episode with Dilmom being all great about it and dancing on her table and stuff, and
yeah, but also Dilbert sort of became part chicken man at the end because he saved himself at the very end, I guess, because the guy was like, the boss was like, do I sense a smell a faint thing of chicken or whatever, something like that.
I didn't even get that whole runner, but yeah.
That was it. That was the whole episode. It was great. It was awesome.
Yeah. So your thoughts?
Best animated show of all time. It was so great. Loved it. It was so funny, so witty.
Mm-hmm.
The jokes and the scenarios were just so unheard of, unique. It's not at all like The Simpsons was around for like 15 years at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can see why it didn't last. I mean, honestly, it was. I think it was dead on arrival of the fact that it was on UPN. Honestly, if it would have been on some other like cable network or something, it might have lasted longer.
Yeah, but they gave it 2 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, they tried.
It's amazing though that they even gave it that much of a time to kind of get off its feet, but or rather get off its, to try to fly like a chicken would, So
but I mean, it would have been. I think it would have been better off on some other networks I'm not going to name right now because they still exist. And yeah, and they can all. But anyways, any other final thoughts here on this great thing?
No, I just want to stop talking about it.
Me too. Just remember that I love you, Sesame loves you, and until next time,
bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All Too Real 2 podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.